because people will anyway join in.
Okay.
I'll just honestly give a background. When Esther actually started reaching out, in her mind, there was a diversity angle. That's why she reached out to three women who she felt are passionate about diversity. She was doing a lot of research and she was very fascinated by political women leaders who are doing very well in this thing. And she said, "Ah, there is a diversity angle, and I wanted to reach out to people who are very passionate about diversity." So that's how this group came up. Then internally we decided that no, why do we talk only about diversity angle? Let's broaden this, because a lot of people then shared their interest. For example, the next one is with the deputy dean of said business school, Oxford University, and somebody from IMD. So we said the broader topic is all about leading in crisis, and where people could share their thoughts, come up with what they're doing, how they're coping, what are their fears. So then this could be a series of such events. I'm just waiting to get confirmation from Rishikesha from IIM Bangalore whether she would like to join her, Kati Harvey from Oxford, so that there's a bunch of academicians in that forum that way. So then we
Wonderful.
took a twist and said, no, no, no. The fact that we have people who are passionate about diversity is one, but the topic is largely around how each one of us are leading this the crisis. So thank you, Esther, for reaching out and bringing these wonderful people together. And thank you, each one of you, to find time and be there. And one of the also in my mail decision that we had taken that we don't want to be seen as experts in dealing with situation like this. I get a lot of calls from clients saying that, can you do something to motivate what to do this? I said, I am struggling myself. Figure
Yeah.
out. So the last thing I can do is to motivate the guys on what to do and how to make working from home work, because each one of us are just figuring this out, and each one of us would have taken some steps that way. And there is also kind of a diversity from each one of you where you are coming from. So I was trying to think about it. I said there are these three kind of a buckets that I could find. One, as human beings, as individuals, how are we dealing with this? Two, based on the role, like Supria play a role of the rest of the whole people would be looking up to you as a head of the organization, that you wear that hat, what would be their expectation? And Leena would be playing a role specifically from Tata, which is a role responsibility part, and how are we responding to that? Then we are part of an organization. So Roshni, when as a CHRO, there is a role, then L'Oreal as an organization. So there is an individual aspect to it. How am I doing this? My role has certain expectation from people. People reach out. People have their concerns, their worries, their hopes, and they think that we need to get answers from the person who is in that role. Then collectively as an organization, each one of your organizations would have taken some measures, some things which is working, some learning, which I thought all will be useful. You possibly got a last email which gives a broader spectrum of what kind of profiles of people who have joined. I think Esther would have just mailed
Yeah.
that, which is
Yes.
so I think our large number of population are HR fraternity who are working in multiple organizations in the country. We also have some few people who have joined in who are outside of India. Then there is a less population who are outside of an HR. So it's largely mid-level and senior folks. So thank you everyone joining it. We just announced it yesterday. I think yesterday morning, I just put that up on LinkedIn, and it's a very overwhelming response. All I can say that while I don't trust myself much, but I do trust these three ladies. and they are going to bring bring their expertise and insights into that. That's a good part of being a moderator, and I don't have to bother much. From a process perspective, while we have these three buckets, and I like to do it slightly in an unstructured way, but if you prefer a structure, you could go, I like something called a popcorn style. Anybody could just pop up. It's not that a proper conference where 20 minutes one speak and somebody else. When if you hear Supria talking and there is a great insight, without pissing her off, we can intervene and say, oh, it's a good idea, Supria. Let me tell you. And, that's fine. Just uh, and so it could be just an informal kind of a chat. And from an audience, from our perspective, what my suggestion would be, if you can text your questions to me personally on the chat box, then I could pick that up and I could then look at which questions what we could address and then introduce you and put that questions. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to manage. And having experience running conferences, sometimes if I allow question answer in a normal way, it can sometimes become a speech, or sometimes we are not clear. So the moment we are typing it, we are very clear about the questions. When I can then pick and choose, then bring those questions to the awareness of the speakers. David, who is my colleague here, he would have requested others to mute yourself, which I can see. Otherwise, he would have done it from his side, which is useful. And we could, we are all ready to start. It is just 10 minutes after 4. We are ready, and dealing in times of crisis or dealing in crisis is the topic. We're just hearing experiences, learnings, and insights. Who would like to go first?
I could go first.
All right.
Silence is not that great.
The brightest person go first.
So, Santosh, this is a good question. It's also a very heavy question, I must say, because none of us, as you mentioned, had imagined this kind of a situation. And no matter what BCP plans any organization has or you have for yourself, uh, some of this is completely new for many people. So first reaction was really to uh, actually not believe what was happening. So there was a denial, if I can say. Even though we had told everybody to work from home, I was going to work pretty much till the time I could not. And, I realized there's no point in going there. But when you saw empty streets, when you saw what was happening and the panic around you, it hit you hard. So the first 2-3 days of being at home and seeing what it's doing to countries outside of India hadn't really picked up by then. And I'm in Mumbai. The lockdown in Mumbai happened earlier than many other parts. Uh, that's when it hit home. And after denial came solid depression of, what's going to happen. It's still, I would say, uncertain phase, but I've come a long way in my own mind. So initially, having everybody home, my husband home, my daughter home, my mother-in-law stays with us, and everybody anxious, everybody doing their online chats or meetings and courses. Space and freedom became an immediate challenge. And then we found our own nooks and corners within our own house, where we felt that, we are on our own and we could do these conversations on our own. But it took us 2-3 days time to figure that out. The panic also of managing the household work, managing the supplies in the house hit, during that time. So it was, I would say the first week was really tough. Second week, I think I did get into the rhythm. Energy became high because you were also playing a role for the organization. So, you're out there, you're trying to pep up people, you're communicating, you're trying to understand what's happening, what we may need to do as an organization. So a lot of my time actually went in that. I think that period of energy sustained because, you were really the flag bearer. Last week, again, I feel there's a dip in the energy, and this uncertainty and anxiety, and how long this can prolong is what is hitting. So it's been uncertain. I've seen ups and downs in my own thinking, in my own self. I try and focus on things I can manage. If I think it's getting too much, I don't mind taking breaks. Uh, I try to divert my attention a bit. I've forced myself to read more during this time. And, or just sit and relax for some time, sitting in the balcony, having a good cup of tea, not getting, anything to think about really has helped. So that's really, my own personal experience. I don't know how the next few weeks will go, but I'm thinking it will be better. My mind frame has become better, and yeah, it's each day at a time. And living that day to the fullest, and then look forward to the next day. That's pretty much my mantra so far.
Is there a sense, because most people whom I talk, after some time, even this state becomes so boring and people want that this state to move on to something else, right? Because we have adjusted, we have coped. Then this sense is, oh my God, when is this going to end, and how long? And there is a kind of a boredom, which sets in. Yeah, very interesting.
Boredom, you have to keep yourself busy. If your boredom is setting you, then do something else. We, in
Correct.
fact, I realized this boredom aspect, Santosh, and we created a talent from home contest. So we had teams or individuals given entries of talent that they are honing at home. We made videos as well, which was stitched together, all of us doing different parts. So my team did a video on Ghar Ghar Ki Kahani, which was actually Ghar Ke Kaam Ki Kahani. So we were shown cleaning fans, there were people doing pocha, and we created a video of that. And, we pitched that in the talent from home. So yeah, I mean, you have to keep doing things to keep your spirit up. Even though for those 3-4 days when we were busy doing this, we were happy. So you have to keep reinventing some of these elements so that you're focused on the next thing.
Got it.
Well,
Yeah.
if I just jump in, and I think pretty much resonating with what Leena is really sharing. We all know we pretty much went on to a lockdown with a very short notice, right? And suddenly we've been asked to. Our Prime Minister says that there is a Lakshman Rekha which is right outside your door, and please don't cross that. So that pretty much became like a super going into a jail. And being in HR, where we interact with people so much day in, day out, because that's the proximity that we really build with people. And suddenly you've been asked to stay at home, not to see anyone, not to interact with anyone, not to talk with, because everyone is going through their own, sort of a journey. Personally, for me, it was, there was a lot of anxiety. I mean, I literally in the first week was constantly on the call almost for 10 hours, 12 hours in a day, just fulfilling this need of talking to someone and being with someone and just sharing with someone and listening to someone, because that's so intuitively a part of our role we land up doing. And then after a point it really started to feel very heavy, because then you are saying that, okay, where are you going? Are you like really doing justice to yourself? Is it something that you really want to do? And how do you want to organize this? Because this lockdown is going to be in place for a while. And I think it really took at least 2 weeks for me to start bringing in some sort of a discipline. And I must say that these days there is so much of an information sharing that's happening around, which is a very good thing that is happening, where people are coming out speaking about their emotions, their frustrations, and also sharing some ideas. And I think that really helped to start putting my own discipline in place. So in-house, you have to mark your small little area, which is your work area. Either you leave your water bottle or you leave your laptop to say that this is your work area. And once you are in this area, perhaps the whole the whole house should know that you are at work right now, and therefore let you do your work. And whenever you feel that, yes, this is something that you want to switch off and come out, and then you should be able to do that. So I think bringing into that discipline after a while, it started to help me at least put my anxiety down a little bit. And of course, a lot of engagement with, wellness and, kind of recreation, because you are almost very immobile today, inflexible today. So how do you start doing little things to, add energy to you besides just looking at your laptop, talking to your screen all the time, then to doing something else. You can't keep watching TVs all the time. So you have to pick up some skill. You have to pick up some book to read to really start engaging yourself in a bit more meaningful, to a stage where right now I see when the whole country is talking about lockdown getting over on Monday, and we really don't know what's going to happen on Monday. This is again a little bit of an anxiety which is building, not self-generated, but more from a role point of view, from an organization point of view. Because I literally get at least few calls that, are we going to come to office on Monday? Are we going to work on Monday, etc. So this is something that is really now, again, sort of getting into that mode of how to start managing that time again. So it's been a little bit of a journey, and I think all of us are, kind of going through, at least I am going through, but immense learning. I personally, at my own level, I think this is the time that I've never seen before, and very humbly, I would say that it's been a great learning through this journey.
Your son is also back here with you, or?
No. So he's still in Australia. So by the time we could really put our thoughts together and ask him to fly down, the international flights were all stopped. So he got stuck over there. So he's still in Sydney. But I think as a country, they're also doing well. I keep talking to him every day. So it's fine. So the anxieties have kind of suppressed a little bit, and I think I'm more okay now, feeling better, more optimistic now.
Yeah, Supria.
All right. Thanks, Santosh. Thanks, Leena. Thanks, Roshni. Wonderful to hear your thoughts on what you're personally going through. And a very warm welcome to all the participants who, according to Santosh, on a very short notice have logged on. So wonderful. Good evening to all of you. I hope you walk away with some new learnings as much as we are going to walk away. So whatever you share, ask questions, trust me, it's going to be a huge learning opportunity for all of us. Let me take a step back. My two co-panelists have shared. I will talk about what personally I'm going through, but let me take a quick step back and talk about my role that I lead for the country. I'm the country manager for Western Digital. And I think as much as there is a personal learning and an experience, sometimes our roles are very overarching and complex, and I think they take a priority. So in that order, when this thing started, for me as a country head, part of the global ecosystem of Western Digital worldwide, I'm looking at saying this was perhaps the first time in my 20 plus years of experience. They're much more than 20, but it's nice to say 20 plus. In the next 20 plus years of experience, I saw this as one event, an unfortunate event, however, one event that put us entire globe on the same page. Anywhere you connect, be it you talk to your friends, your colleagues in Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, you talk to US, Italy, Europe, Western Europe, now the Eastern Europe, you talk to anyone, connect with anyone. There wasn't a difference in the communication. There was a shared understanding of what all of us as human beings are going through. And I thought that for me was the first time I'm seeing a level up. There is a shared understanding of what we are going through across the globe. We're all treating ourselves as only human beings, minus the titles, the companies, the other things that rip-rap. I think that had taken a back seat. And more importantly, I saw there was empathy amongst each other. We did not have to go through laborious pains of being an Asian, a woman, and all of that. I think it was purely a victim of COVID at some point of time, coupled with anxiety, and all of us was, sharing that state. So I think that was a global equalizer for me. That brought in a lot much needed empathy much faster, and therefore I think the world being unified at different levels. So I think that was one. Unfortunately, an event like that had to happen, but of course it happened, and I think there's a positive plus that emerged out of it. Second, when you talk about large companies that we all represent or we are part of, be it even the small mid-sized segments, it's irrespective of size. I think there's an entire disorderly, unprecedented scale that this event has brought in, which has all made us wonder, can there be jobs that can be done from home? And if yes, what kind? And of course, there are some that can be done from home, some that cannot be. So I think this entire aspect of the infrastructure readiness of each corporate in terms of can it be done, can it not be? And I think a lot of companies with IT infrastructure have been able to mobilize Santosh jobs from home. We've been able to mobilize more than 95, 96%, but there are those companies amongst different sizes that haven't been able to do that. So I think the world and the corporate is still largely looming to understand, once we come out of this, are we going to be saying this 6 to 8 weeks to 10 weeks have taught us something? Are we ready for a lot more work from home and looking at infra? I think that's another reality that's staring at us, all of us today. If I talk about quickly sum up to say economy, of course the economy is suffering. We've all looked at the airline sector that's completely beaten. We've looked at retail taking a backseat. We've looked at IT sector where the spending is a lot less. So I think as much as we say lives over livelihood, we come out of this hopefully not as scared as other regions. I think the deal is going to be to say how quickly is the economy going to recover? What aspects of it are going to recover? So I would say from that perspective, all of the corporate, most of it essentially are in a pause and a hold mode to say, let's not do our big spends. Let's understand what the world is. Let's see how and what is going to open and what kind of curves are we going to land in. And for India, it's predicted to be a W curve. But there are multiple, I think, alphabets being looked at to say what curves essentially the economy is going to bounce back or bounce back in. So I think these are three different things that we are perhaps experiencing as part of this pandemic. Quickly coming to my personal experience, it's mostly my husband and I who live with, a little bit of one or two people who help us and they're part of our extended family. But I did move in my entire mom-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and I'll pause there, at least 7, 8 members of my family from Delhi. And it was time for them to fly back after 6 months and COVID came in. So in my house, there are 13 people who live today, from completely 2 people at the house and me being out of my house when I was 15, never looking back, to being 45 plus. I'm looking at 13 people household for the last 8 weeks. They're almost locked down. The food, I cook a lot. And when I cook, it's almost like I'm serving a mini mega meal every day. It's like an Akshay Patra mini kitchen running inside my home. My groceries, I thought money in the bank, you could buy at least groceries. I think those notions have been dispelled. You can have whatever you want in bank, but you are not going to get a cauliflower or a lettuce that you want. So you will have to go with what is inside the refrigerator. So scarcity mindset is something completely different, and I struggled with it for a day or two. But hand on my heart, time with the family is a big plus. I am loving it. I'm loving it. Unfortunate event. But yes, I think I'm discovering the feminine side of me, which you and I can take offline and talk about. But so far, so good. Stay safe, stay motivated, because there's no one else who's going to hold a hand. I think we've got to learn to walk again. It's been decent going so far, Santosh. I think even respect to India, we're doing good thanks to Mr. Modi.
Yeah. Got it. So that brings us to the whole, role, while Supria touched upon the role that is there. But what could be, from a leader's perspective, some of you, like Roshni, you're part of a multinational organization, Supria is, you would also have leaders across the globe. The way we reacted, and Tata is like a huge conglomerate here. What do they look for as an organization, and what is it that, from a leadership perspective, we have this political leadership style available across the world when dealing with crisis? This could be a crisis, or before that, what happened in 2008 is a crisis, whether it's a health crisis or an economic crisis. What kind of a leadership? What are 2, 3 things that leaders do work well to help people deal with it, cope with it, manage the situation better? What have you seen in your organizations?
Maybe
So you want
I
to
can
change the order? Yeah, I was going to say that. Roshni, go first.
Yeah.
I can change. I can start on this. Ironically, we have been speaking about VUCA world for a very long time, right? And it's been more than 5 years, 6 years. We've been also talking about the digital disruption, which has become a very integral part of the change management or the transformation most organizations are going through today, right? So therefore, if I look at the crisis situation today, the COVID-19, while I can say that all of us are in the same storm, but frankly, not in the same boat, So organizations are managing the situation very differently. And the big difference is really how organizations have prepared themselves to this whole VUCA world, and changing the whole culture of people in the company. And that is what is that is what is getting tested the most, in today's time. And people or the organizations who have really worked on this over the last few years in terms of building a very leadership capability culture and the digital transition in their companies are today at the upper hand, managing the situation seamlessly. Now, talking about L'Oreal, we started this journey almost 5 years ago, where this journey was all about changing the culture and leadership transformation called simplicity. And I think a lot of the work was done to manage, to build a very great amount of flexibility, agility, and a great collaboration work culture. And I see that is really helping today in the situation of this crisis, where leaders who are more focused on enabling and empowering the team are actually in a better position to manage their team and manage their work very, very productively, right? I don't see at an overall organization we have achieved it all. We are a very young organization. But I think this is a time that we are also testing some of these, very, very interestingly, and in a way also accelerating the journey on this whole new culture, new people, and new leadership behavior, right? So that's exactly what I would say. Day before yesterday, I was talking to someone, and a manager asked me that, it's been a long time, I'm in a lockdown situation. Tell me, how do I manage and control my team? So I really laughed at him. I said, look, your words, what are you saying? You are saying manage and you are saying control. This is something that will really not help you, thrive through in this crisis, because what you really need to do is to really enable your team and empower your team. It's, there is a tendency that leaders would like to put themselves into the center all the time, because especially in a crisis situation, you want to take decisions, you want to make sure that everything is going well. But I think this is also a good time to bring your entire team up. And I think that's the good behavior of a leader, really tested in the time of crisis, where you start engaging, you start enabling and empowering much more. And I think that really helps, go through and bring your team, even when you start working on the recovery plan. I think this is the qualities that will really help to bring the organization to a different level altogether. So
Did your team see any new Roshni? Is there any insight about your own leadership style or something? Or did they give you any feedback? Because the testing times show our real metal.
Yes.
Did you have any insights about your own leadership style? Did your team give you feedback of, oh yeah, Roshni, I have never seen you doing this, and I've noticed now you are more empathetic. You're not that bad as I thought you are.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, these are also learning times. You learn as you start to see things happening, in front of you. So to me also, I think right from the time when I was very anxious in the beginning and I was pushing teams to get into the act and the action, to a phase where I'm now realizing that this is not helping and the teams need to evolve and, engage in their own ways and start doing things. So as I said, that's also a learning in terms of, controlling your own anxiety level and letting team to do that and start to emerge as, much more inclusive sort of a culture. So that's exactly what I would say from my own insights point of view also.
So, I think Roshni's really captured it very well. Leaders who put their teams in front are the ones I've seen really do well. Few more things that I think have been a very big adaptation change. When you go for meetings, you are looking at the body language. Out here, I think people are listening better. And even the tone, the words that are being said are very different. So leaders who've adapted well to this mode are the ones who are actually doing better, in my view. And those who are continuing to, rely on more visual cues are the ones I feel, who are kind of frozen in the moment. In addition, a few more things which I thought have been very important during this time. One is, it's said that necessity is a mother of invention. In business context, it can't be more true than where we are. So when you see a situation like that, you try and figure out creative ways. I've seen more creative outcomes come as a result of this crisis, and I hope that these creative outcomes are sustained even after the lockdown is removed. In addition, agility, we will never have perfect answers. Nobody knows the perfect answers today. It's better to decide than not to. And we've seen that in the way India has dealt with the pandemic versus how other countries have dealt with the pandemic. Answer is not to keep delaying and look for more and more data to take a decision. It's important to take the decision. It's also very important to connect more than ever. So Santosh, to your question, my team did tell me that I'm talking to them a lot more. They never got time when I was in office, and they're very happy that they're getting time together as a team a lot more than they did. I do have a disparate team. They are working on different elements. So we call it team of teams because it truly is team of teams. So we never have a natural platform, but this crisis has got a natural platform. So we have in the morning, we have a stand-up call where we talk about what we are going to do today and how we can help each other. And in the evening, we have a call which is called Chai Pe Charcha, which is nothing to do with work. We just talk about grocery issues. We talk about issues around supplies. We talk about, what we are going to do today, what we are going to cook today, fancy things that we are planning to do. So it's more like an informal sundowner, if you will. So, this, was not happening, obviously, when we were back in office. So it's been a welcome change, and I'm hoping that we do capture these moments as we go back to work as well, and not forget some of these learnings that we've had. So yeah, be creative, be agile, keep connecting, communicate very openly. And I think it's also important to share how you feel, because, just trying to be a hero, nobody is a hero. Each one of us in our own right is a hero at home. So I think just trying to, Roshni did mention that very well, that, being in the center is not leadership. Really being with people is what I'm seeing is defining leadership style. And, that's what I have observed in my interactions with leaders within the group.
Awesome. It looks like, every time having the last laugh doesn't work. It's tough to go in after such beautiful, eloquently put stuff. The participants are going to say, wow, does she really need to speak? But let me do service to this. Absolutely agree with what you both are beautifully saying it and piecing it so wonderfully with your own personal anecdote. Completely with you, Leena, Roshni. There is no different take on this. I would just answer it quickly in two parts to say, when I look at managing this crisis with respect to the company, we kind of said that the normal structures are for normal situations. When you are in a structure like that, situation like that, assess your current structures, because if you expect them to work, maybe they are good for normalcy and that they are doing very well. So the opportunity that this crisis kind of put together in front of me and my team was, do we need another structure? And like India moved very quickly on decisive leadership, I'm happy to say that we moved very quick and fast. We constituted something completely different called a CMT, a crisis management team. We had all the stakeholders functionally representing, a good team of 10, 11, cadence to meet daily. And the beauty was in this, it was clear. While in a day-to-day life, we say, you're doing HR, but can you do business? Can you give me idea? But this was a different situation. In this, we said, if you're HR, please do HR only. If you're legal, we would like to stick with subject matter domains because there isn't time to debate, discuss, dialogue. We need to take everyday decisions and directions. And therefore, let's stick to our subject matter expertise because that's what we know best. So therefore, when you come and the lawyer on my team would say, well, this is how I interpret the guidelines. Well, that's the final word. We are going to launch into an action state after that. So nobody's going to second judge, cross judge. So I think huge empowerment to this team, extremely relying on their core skills and subject matter expertise. Over and above dealing with crisis, Santosh was a very positive plus for us. The team continues to meet daily. And of course, we've spun off other structures like return to work. Now there's a different team working on it. We got scenario building. Now, quickly fast forwarding to your question to say, if now going forward, if I was on the interview panel and I'm going to look at hiring leaders, I would say inclusivity is something which is completely top of my list today, because this crisis has taught us that we can't do it alone. We just cannot do it. I mean, there were days we celebrated heroism. This is absolutely the day of a person who may be sitting in one corner underutilized, but has a powerhouse of information. And therefore you got to have an inclusive approach to bring that person in and rely on his or her judgment. So I would look for inclusivity, number one. I think there was a lot of merit I used to play, and you know me very well, I think down to my bone, that I would love to execute a plan to perfection. So before you ask me what feedback I was given and what I changed, Roshni answered it beautifully. I would embed saying, thank God, a lot of feedback was given to me before this crisis started to say, can you slow down? Can you not push? Can you let us be? And I was like, wow, what a wonderful moment for me to have an opportunity to practice all the skills, because your control freakness out of the window. Your ability to stick to a plan out of the window. Your ability to predict the future, well, gone are the models. They haven't figured an algorithm out for this one, as to what variables contribute to this and what's a good state of COVID and not, and when will we come out. So I think I would look for inclusiveness. I would look for a extremely bold leadership, because time to take a decision, like I think Leena put it beautifully, is better to say I love you and be rejected and then be done with it rather than not decide at all. So I think decision making is paramount. You've got to move in crisis. And the third, which is extremely open, beautiful for me today, is being nimble-footed. I think open. Make a plan. You need a plan. But very quickly jump to a disorderly state, get confused, and be able to come out of it unscathed. And if I would layer this with a cherry, I would say, as much as you're breaking inside and you don't know the answers, but for you to go to a meeting and be calm. I, in the last 6 weeks, have never started my meeting without asking, how are you? How was the weekend? What did you do? And just giving room for people 15, 20 minutes to air out, dialogue. Do you know Mr. Modi said something? Do you have a comment? And you realize people want to vent out. Well, after that vent is out, you know the mood, which mood they are in. They're jumpy, boom, we can decide fast. They're a little sullen, pep them up and bring them on the same page. I think that is a very different style that I've experimented, and that is what is reaping dividends. If I was the previous, jet set go, it wouldn't have lasted me in this crisis. I'm very happy that people give you feedback for a damn good reason, and I'm glad that we are open and flexible to it. But that is what I would put my money on at this time of crisis.
I have a question to you, Supria. This situation, interestingly, most of the good novels are written in the time of war.
Yes.
Crisis.
Yes.
One of the reasons they say that it shows us the real you. When there is an issue, and in organization development, there is a theory that whenever there is an external threat, that's a great time to bring people together. So things happen, people come together, and you also get to see the real. Is there any kind of surprises you saw in terms of leadership or capability of somebody whom you possibly never realized? And this time, oh my God, there is a hero here.
Oh, I'm so, consider this a virtual hug, because I'm so glad you asked this. There are team members of mine who've joined the call, and this is something that will completely resonate with them because they've heard me say this a few weeks back. In a normal organization scenario, we tend to develop favorites even though we may not like it. I mean, all of this is not nice to do, but it's good to be humble and vulnerable and say sometimes there's somebody who picks the slack, gets going, stretches, and tends to be the hero, and you tend to work with that individual more. I have seen two different scenarios, Santosh. I have seen someone who's brilliant, literally someone who I would go to every situation, and yet the person took some time to change, orient, because this entire thing about reprioritization, knowing the new normal, working only with 2 to 3 things and not 40 things, I think that did not come very quickly to this individual. And for me to be able to sit down and have a chat to say, well, let's understand, let's reprioritize. I think that was one part of the leadership that came into play. There were 1 or 2 other surprises. these people were just there, picking it up. On a normal day, they would dot their I's, cross their T's. But in a crisis, if I'm on the call and I say, okay, we need to get this communication out, before I finish the call, the communication draft was in my inbox, and I'm like, damn, where did the I's go? Where did the T's get crossed? It was beautiful. So I saw both the ends. I saw someone struggle with the change and struggling with prioritization. And I saw a new hero emerge who was always perfect, but he was willing to get quick and dirty job. So, you know, the beauty as a leader to sit away, you know, during this time and say, I have many more heroes now, because the one hero who was there, a little bit of reprioritization, and you know the person is ready to go. Because the basic raw material is so damn good. But there are other heroes and, you know, sheroes who have emerged. Oh, so your team is just that much bold and strong, and you have that much more force to rely on. And having said that, it would be quite sad if I didn't paint the picture, you know, completely beautiful, to say there are some who always cry and they continue to cry. There are some who say, you know, I mean, it'd be so stupid. They'll say everything is good in my life. Of course it isn't. You know, it kind of is a complete rainbow. And there are some who think they can push, ask Supria the same question to say, hey, is this possible? Can May 3rd we go to office? Can we go on 22nd April? And I'm like, you know what, just because you keep asking, my answer is not going to change. So this bully behavior, this being persistent, asking same question, refusing to read the writing on the wall, I think I do see some of those characteristics also play out a lot larger. So I think it's a mixed bag, and people must understand that pushing does not get you anywhere. Pulling is the way, and motivating and inspiring. It's tough, it's long term. But I think this crisis has emerged many more heroes that, you know, you and I should someday chat about. For me, that's a positive plus again out of this.
Last one. How do you manage this collective anxiety? Because some of the clients that we work with, there are salary cuts and they are not sure about whether there will be reductions in the manpower, what will happen, the next year's budget and the next year's. I personally have done 4 visioning exercises in the past for 2020 with clients. I can't even figure out what happened to those visions. You know, so there is also some level of a collective anxiety. You as a also business leader, what message you give?
So, you know, it's good to be honest, because if you were to ask us, sometimes we think we carry the onus of having all the answers. So I have done town halls digitally with the WebEx event. I think that's a fascinating tool. And people were like, is there going to be reduction? I think we were like, we don't know, because honestly, we don't know. Our Q3 earnings are out tomorrow. Hopefully this quarter is good, but I know the next quarter we are stretched. Are we looking at tightening the budget? Absolutely. Are we saying it's better to keep a current manpower and therefore put the new requisitions on hold? Absolutely. Is a university new hire program going to undergo a little bit of a change? Absolutely. I think that's the reality, because we all read news. We all know what the world is going through. We all know there's going to be a loss of jobs. But I think anxiety is something which is, it's thinking about the future. So I think being honest about this time to say, guys, they could be, but right now we don't know. And our honest attempt is going to be to minimize that as much as possible. So we are in the same boat as you. Is my job safe? I don't know. Therefore, is yours safe? At least I have a bigger responsibility to ensuring that safe. So I think we've had executives very clearly say, we don't know. We are working through it. But if we reduce today's spend a little bit more consciously, clearly headcount is the last resource that we would want to do. So I think, again, keeping people first and honestly communicating that. Is there a product delivery that's going to get missed? Absolutely. Are we looking at scenario buildings to say, okay, if 10% goes, 20 goes, 30%, I mean, retail is at a 30% decline. There is very little you can do. So I think pausing, making sure our spends are much more, judicious. I mean, look at our travel. That's a clear saving anyway for the next 6 months. Our big worldwide conferences are a big saving, because June we had this mega conference with 300 people flying across. Nobody's going there. So I think rechannelizing that money, some of it, travel is a huge budget in our environment. So my sense is there is some judiciousness that will prevail at the end of it. But being transparent and true when we don't have the answers is the best, and telling them right now, focus on delivery. You get this right, you are probably much more control of your job than anyone else today. So just continue to focus on delivery. And then we get cynicism to say, is there any time when you have said, no, don't focus on delivery? Where it's good time, you say this, bad time. we're like, you know what, that's all the safety is. You and your work and your excellent delivery is what's going to save you. So I think just keeping the message honest, Santosh. There is no magic trick to this one.
So Leena, this could you can choose to answer this, or because being in the group level, you have multiple level of companies, right? One side will be a tech firm like TCS, another side will be a Tata Motors or a Tata Steel. From where you sit, do you have a visibility about any kind of firms which are able to manage this more? Any specific organization, without naming them, based on where they come from, having more difficulty, and what actions possibly collectively as a group level?
So I think most of our companies have been able to respond in a thoughtful manner, Santosh, I would say. And in fact, I'll also say that the interaction and learnings from each other have gone up much more than it has been ever since I have been there. So if there is a mindfulness workshop that is being organized by one entity, we are happy to extend it to multiple other entities and everyone jumps in. So, we are very lucky to have a group like we do, because we are able to pick best practices and just replicate it across. So everybody is not reinventing the wheel. We are trying to create processes and then leverage it, keeping enough room for customizations and leverage it across all the groups. So there's a lot of work which is happening, which can be leveraged across all our entities, which I think is a very beautiful outcome of the current situation. Uh, I think from an engagement standpoint, most of our companies have been able to do that fairly well. An Air Asia or a Vistara is very different from from a Tata Motors or a Tata Steel, but the engagement levels are more tuned to the employee demographic of that entity. So if Air Asia is doing Zumba classes, keeping all the crew busy for 4 or 5 hours in a day, because they can't go to the station, and they are pretty much at home. That's flown off very well. At the same time, I think what has really worked well for our group is the way we have responded to the community, and many people have raised their hand to even help the community and go beyond their call of duty to help around. So I think a lot of good stories are there, Santosh, and we make sure that at a group level we keep circulating these stories. We keep telling them examples of what is happening. And, I would also say that our employees are equally motivated to come up with their own ideas, suggest ideas, so that we can incorporate those in the way that we deal with it. So again, from a communication standpoint, I couldn't agree more with Supriya. It's important to be transparent. It's important to be authentic. And I think people understand. If you speak from honesty, if you speak from, a view of that, here is the situation, this is how we are thinking, I think people do understand. So that's the best method to go about.
Roshni, when you share, look at like we know that a lot of industry sectors are affected, whether it is airline, whether it is hospitality. That's not in our control. That's because of the external. But can we say, but this is what I get a sense with listening to all of you, can we say, regardless of what is happening outside, internally the engagement, the productivity, collaboration, and output has increased or decreased?
Uh, no, I would definitely say that it is increased. I think the amount of engagement, the closeness, even whilst we are working from home. I mean, we used to have once in a quarter town hall. Today, we are doing once in a week town hall. And we are doing it seamlessly. So hierarchies are also kind of diminishing a little bit in a way, because we are reaching out to every people down the line, and people are really listening the whole intent and transparency and what we want to do for the people absolutely in a very transparent way. So I would say that the communication has improved, engagement has really improved, the productivity levels have really improved. I see the work from home is really working today. I think thanks to the whole technology, etc., which is really supporting, and we are able to, work from home and so on. However, I think we still have to see the feasibility of work from home in the longer run, and I think that could be very organization or industry specific, that we still need to see going forward how this is going to work. Today, people are in a very lockdown situation. They are not moving. They have nothing else to do than to sit on the job and work and, produce Excel sheets, scenario plannings, and so on. However, we still need to see how this whole work from home in a normal situation is also going to work. The virtual platform is here to stay for sure. I think this is something that, we see that people are adapting to it really very fast, and the technology is responding really fast. So I would say the productivity is really high, except the fact that today business is absolutely not there. Sales guys are absolutely not in the field. So the business productivity is absolutely zero. But I think the work continues. All people are working on their own agenda and creating, all kinds of scenarios, recovery plan, and all of that. So that's really going quite well. So I wouldn't say that there is any, hindrance in that. I think the point also to mention is that, I think that's where the whole leadership also get tested, is sometimes if you have a luxury of time, do you really bring in the right amount of work for people to work, or are you just trying to fill in the time for people to work on something, right? And I think that's also very important for leaders to go back and check, in terms of, are you just justifying the time that people have today and trying to fill, with some gaps out there, or are you really making it very productive? So to me, I think the jury is still out there. I would say people are working. I don't see there is any trust issue. Managers are trusting their teams more. But do I have the right measures of productivity in the true sense of ROIs, etc.? I think we've yet to kind of establish that in full proof.
Is there a huge level of anxiety within your organization?
A lot, I think the only way this anxiety. Very interestingly, yesterday I got a call because we pay our salaries on the second last day of the month, and I got a call yesterday from someone that is my salary coming this month or not? Because of some bank issue, we were a little bit delayed by a couple of hours in crediting the salary. But you see the anxiety level, people have, and they don't mind just calling and asking whether I'll get the salary or not. So definitely the anxiety levels are there. But I think what, very nicely Supria and Leena put in the beginning, the intent, transparency, and staying in touch with your people, regularly connecting and communicating, I think that really, puts the whole anxiety at ease. To a large extent. I'm not sure if it will go away 100%, but it really helps in, kind of making sure that you are killing the anxiety level and bring people back into the mode of being positive, working, and look forward to the recovery form in some way.
One sensitive question to you. Have you seen some of your hard-nosed, control-freak leaders softening during this time? Or are they still that?
In the last 3-4 weeks, most of my time is actually doing my talent reviews, right? And the talent reviews that we do almost every time, and we look at who's good at what, potential, the assessment, all of that in a very classical way. And I have a lot of surprises that I'm seeing the leaders today, the way they are emerging today. And I think I should not shy away from saying that the L'Oreal in India is still a very young organization. We are only 25 years in the country. So I don't see, like Tata's or like a big organization, we have a very huge legacy of building the huge leadership in the company. So we are still in the format or the journey of building the leadership. But I see that this crisis is really turning around some heads to being more, agile, being more enabling, and being more engaging, for sure. So that's one of the areas that I keep looking in my talent review assessment also.
Great, great. So I have some questions. So one is, during these times of virtual work and social distancing, what would be some tips from you on how teams could continue to communicate, stay motivated, and stay productive in a virtual setting? Are there any specific examples?
So let me just say a few things. So in our company, I think we have picked up wellness as a very important part. And I think this is also a time where, people want to stay energized, positive with mind, body, soul, etc. So we have a program which is running called Wellness Never Stop, which actually touches across physical wellness, emotional wellness, financial wellness, and so on. So this is quite well classified like that. And we do a lot of webinars and touch points with people in terms of how to manage their finances in this time of crisis, how to manage their well-being and health and their nutrition and so on. We do online yoga classes and Zumba classes every day, which has been like a super fab these days. I mean, I'm telling you, before crisis, we used to really struggle with in our office to find a space to do this whole yoga and have a gym and all. I think we are really moving very fast towards the virtual world. I don't think we will need a gym in our office any longer. We will be very happy to convert completely into the virtual world and make sure that people are absolutely fit and fine. The other part that you were also mentioning about the anxiety, and I think this is where the mental health services really helps. And I think programs like Employee Assistant Program, where you have people to call up and ask what do they need, support, help, I think all of that really helps. We are also trying to engage with people more meaningfully, where they are able to also develop skill, pick up new skill, learn new things. So we have Learning Never Stop campaign, which is going on. Through this campaign, we've also seen a lot of managers have come out as a very good speakers. So we've actually been able to nail them and bring them forward to say, okay, now you come and speak about the subject that you are very fond of, which you have never done in the past. So people are really opening up to also come and share their learning, becoming great speakers, like how we are talking, and therefore, how are you talking on the virtual platform? So I think a lot of positivity that I see this crisis has taught us, and a lot of opportunities as well. So all in all, it's good.
I just give a quick comment to say, it's like we were releasing virtual videos and all of that, but when we want to get tense and anxious, it's not like we want, it's a natural response, in terms of to an external situation. It's anxiety is part of our lives. So I would say, look at all that's changing. Oh, there's COVID. I don't know if I'll be safe. I don't know. My parents are at a different location. And for some of them, the kids are in different countries, as Roshni herself shared. These are times of very difficult, stressful times. But I would also say that these are pretty much outside our control situations. I would say when I want to feel comfortable and get out of my anxious zone, I look at what hasn't changed. Damn, my boss is just the same. My reporting line, that big thing hasn't changed to him. My company is still the same. My husband is the same. My kids, my dog, my grandparents, a lot of that hasn't changed. So I think keeping a balanced perspective and actually doing a checkbox exercise, we kind of released a very quick video on this to say, see what hasn't changed, and you'll realize a lot of it is still the same. But the way it used to get executed, manifested, maybe the manifestation of that has changed. There are excellent tools like collaborative Microsoft Teams, where our design teams have been able to collaborate, co-author. It's just that you aren't getting ready going to office and coming back. And there's an overall, question mark of we are safe. What is this? Our end time, is it nearer than before? So I think just keeping sense in check of what is still same. I think in times like this helps. The teams, at least in our company, Santosh, and I know ours is just one small dot in the entire universe. Because it's more IT enabled, we have been seeing productivity kind of managed okay. We haven't seen a big drop. But if it has dropped in one part, I think it's kind of made up for the other parts, because, design development can be done, lab dependencies are not met. But overall, it hasn't been, to date, it hasn't been dismal. I think the next 4 to 6 weeks are going to be extremely important, both for India as a nation and the economy and the global, I think all of us, to say what is it it's holding. So I would say read, utilize, and see what you can do with this time, because good or bad, this is not going to come back either. When you're actually sitting at home and trying to, have your view, we've all wanted a break. This is a forced break. Just because we didn't choose, we are not liking it. But I would say, it's like recently someone said, if you're given lemons, it's not easy to make a lemonade. All we can do is try. So I would urge everyone on the call, including to say, we have been given lemons. Let's just try making a lemonade. Maybe yours is better than mine. Maybe mine is not that good. All we can do is try. So stay positive and keep trying is all we can do.
I'm also very excited because we're just starting that the informal network analysis with your
Yes,
firm this
absolutely.
week to see during this situation whether it is changing, because we just finished with a pharma company
You
and
did.
we found that because what is happening that informal connections that we form now is much stronger than the hierarchy level relationship. So
Yes.
is
But
Very
that
I
true.
want to
reflecting
say,
in our study?
Very true.
But
yeah.
I'm very keen to really look at now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say one point, Santosh, when Leena was talking, and of course, Roshni did allude to that. There was this work from home was largely the preview of women, largely. Maternity, take a little longer break, grandparents or parents take a break. It was still more a need of the women. I mean, men were using it, but it was far less. Look at it, this situation, very unfortunate, but it has put an equalizer again. I mean, the world is equal right now. All the men, everybody. My husband is sitting and working from home, and he's someone whose office is 5 minutes away. And every time he would say, "You're working from home," he'd be like, "I can't." And I would love the smugness with which he would say, I mean, I adore him to death, but he would say, "I can't." And today I ask him, "Are you ready to go to work?" "No. I love being home." Every time I'm cooking, he's like, drooping over my shoulder to see what I'm doing. There are a lot more hugs. And he's just a convert. I love to trim his hair from time to time and play with that and get my revenges, soft ones. But it's so beautiful to see that people are transitioning, and this taboo of work from home, don't bring your children. Oh my God, the cooker whistle went off. Today, it's absolutely okay for your children to drop in. I think we actually pause meetings and say, "Hi, how are you?" I can't imagine me doing that, but I'm like, today the home is the new office. So, respect what is there inside the home. I think there's a renewed respect for people working from home, men and women alike. So, our work-life integration, thanks to HR Doyens, it's already here. I think it's here. The digital age, it's already here. So, I think we are living those times, is what I would say.
Leena?
Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
for you to add. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Supria did sum it well. Home is where work is where home is. It's actually daunting because whoever I've spoken with, you talked about productivity, Roshni. Anyone I have spoken with, they say that they are working a lot harder than they did before. And that's also not okay. And which is why, one has to constantly keep telling people, I have to remind people it's a holiday tomorrow. Don't start logging in. And sometimes people have forgotten that tomorrow is Saturday,
That's
tomorrow
all.
is Sunday. You just have to do that. Uh, Other things which I think are, also beautiful opportunities. Supriya, you talked about it, that you're getting a lot of time with the family. At the same time, I see that has added to stress for many people because of lack of space, and being pressurized to respond. So we've actually, focused very heavily on mental wellness in the last
Sure.
1 month, and we've seen a renewed rigor and registrations on our platforms, more interest in this subject, how to manage parents, how to manage teens, how to manage your
Yeah.
own self, as well, how to cope with anxiety. These kind of programs have taken off big time. And I hope that they do, because, in day-to-day pressures, we don't realize how anxious we are. It's just that when we see everybody being anxious, it's okay to say that I'm anxious. And, that has added to
True.
people actually being more open about getting help, whereas they did need help even before. I think some of these elements have to be taken forward. While work from home has become very productive now, I'm not sure how sustainable it is going to be. When
Yeah.
people start having backaches, when people start having spondylitis issues, or having problems like that because of not having appropriate infrastructure at home, we'll be dealing with a different situation altogether. So I think, whatever organizations decide going forward have to be done very thoughtfully, and have to be not done from a standpoint of, oh, this is going to save cost, this is going to be highly productive. I never thought a work from home could be so productive. It should be a two-way equation of employee convenience and, of course, business sense. If it's only being done because it's making much more business sense, it's going to boomerang. If it's only being done because it's employee convenience, we'll go back to where we were before. So I think a mix of the two worlds is what will make this situation work from home much more sustainable going forward.
Thank you, everyone. Brilliant stuff. Being a consultant, usually we have a tendency to trying to summarize, put that points, everything. I am shit scared to do that because you guys have done a great job. I have nothing. I am personally somebody who always loved to operate from home. And I always had told my clients, why can't we do this on a call? And you know
Yeah.
how most clients are, no, come, you come to office, we'll have a chai, we'll sit down and chit chat. And I'm very happy that they themselves don't do that now. So I could do my dogs, my two dogs are so happy that they get to see me
More
all the
often.
time. And anyway, I was planning to move to Coorg this year to operate from there. So this tested that my clients still call me when I am in Coorg and I can do my work through webinars and Zooms sitting there in the riverside. But this was a fantastic sharing experience. Couple of things from a chat box. I am not trying to summarize what I heard. The good news that they were saying is what they appreciated is how all three of you were extremely honest and transparent in sharing about yourself. Two, what it says that there was no pretense. You were talking about how you communicated to that without any pretense to the larger number of people. Then I have a comment which say that they love the kind of a simplicity by which all of you approach this topic. I have something called we heard now about the positive DNA, because otherwise in most of the discussions it's about how grave things are going to be. One comment say that I really love to hear that a lot of positive stuff which we can learn from this. And there is excellent, very candid. So I think the common theme all of you got is candid, simple, and from the heart. Is the comment that brilliant and open views. Most of the things were aware, but when we speak in various platforms, we should to value it. Thanks for sharing. Just great initiative. That's all. Lot of questions were there on my chat box. And good that I tried that, because I didn't have to bring those questions. As you went on to speak about it, they were answered. So I don't think none of those people who asked that question will say that, oh, I had a question. So most of the questions were answered as we spoke about it. If there is anybody who has a violent disagreement and feel that my question hasn't got answered, you can type that on the general chat box now. Otherwise, this is good. Somebody says, let's have a compassionate smile. Yeah, this is a smile can cure and leave pain. Yeah, good. I think the broader theme came up: honest, transparent, positive, straight from the heart. I knew that. That's why they're carefully chosen.
Thank you so much,
much.
Santosh.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you
much.
so much. It was such a great fun to speak to each one of you. And thank you, Santosh,
Yes.
for inviting me. I
Yeah.
think this was a very interesting time that I spent with all of you. And thank you all for the listeners who are really listening to all of this. And
Hoping to stay connected with the
Yes,
two of you, as and
of course.
great audience as well. I saw the comments I was reading through. Thank you very much for your comments, audience.
Thank you, Santosh, for the invitation. Yours is always a yes, so no point asking. If the time allows, which I think it does in situations like this, it's always a yes. Pleasure meeting with you, Leena and Roshni, in a digital world. And thank you, everyone, for your comments. You're very kind, I would say. So I think let's keep the kindness and the empathy on. Thank you so
You
much.
should possibly also do another webinar on even during the lockdown. How do you manage to look so gorgeous?
I was going to say that.
L'Oreal can sponsor that, Santosh, for sure.
That's wonderful.
There goes the business for you.
Yes.
See you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you,
All right.
Santosh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.